So welcome, Lori. I'm so happy to have you today from Maine AARP. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much, Dusty. And hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today. I'm Lori Parham. I'm the State Director for AARP here in Maine. And for those who may not know, AARP is a nonpartisan, nonprofit social mission organization with over 200,000 members across the state of Maine. We advocate on behalf of people 50 plus and their families on a range of issues from health, security, financial security, long-term care, housing, transportation, you name it. And we're just thrilled to be a part of Bill Bites today.
Wonderful, thank you. And so just a reminder for folks who are with us in the Zoom room, we're happy to have your questions and comments. You're welcome to put them in the chat. You also can go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you, and you're welcome to ask your question out loud. If you do that, your image or your voice or both will be on our live stream, which is on Facebook and has up to 6,000 viewers. So please note that. And if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and put your questions or comments in the chat. So we're here today to talk about, let's see, you don't have an LD yet, is that right?
We don't have an LD yet. I checked this morning and we're still waiting, but it's LR 921.
All right, and I'm really interested in this bill because it's sort of a fascinating, like, public-private way of managing a problem lots of people have, which is how to save for retirement. So tell us a little bit about what this bill does.
Sure. So this bill is really meant to create, as you said, Dusty, a public-private partnership that will offer employees in Maine who don't have a way to save for retirement through their employer, a way to save for retirement. Maine has a pretty low savings rate across the board. We're a small business state, we're a tourism state, and a lot of jobs in the service industry, and a lot of Maine workers don't have an option to save. So we know that many fewer companies or organizations offer pensions these days, and some offer a 401k or a savings option, but many can't. They don't, or they just can't. It's too much for them. And so this can impact individuals saving for retirement. And so this would create an option where the state and a private entity would work together to make sure that all employees would have an option to save for retirement here in Maine.
And would that retirement, though, still go through the employer, like a paycheck deduction plan? Is the idea?
So this is how it would work. If your employer doesn't currently offer an option to for savings for their employees, the employer would automatically enroll individuals into this program, and it would be an IRA, so a very traditional savings option. Individual employees would be automatically enrolled in the program at a percentage that would be determined by a board of individuals who would flesh out the fine details of the program, folks with expertise in retirement and folks representing workers. And then these employees would be able to save every month through their paycheck. If they chose not to, if they really didn't want to do this, they could opt out, but they initially would be automatically enrolled. We know from the data in savings, both through 401ks that many big companies offer and through IRAs and those kinds of savings programs, that automatic enrollment really helps folks save for retirement. It gets them going right away. You don't miss the money, it goes right into savings, and so that works really well. So this would be for those employees who currently don't have an option The program would be portable so that you could take it from job to job. And if you are currently someone in Maine who's working 2 jobs through 2 different entities or organizations or companies, you could save through both, or you could save through one. It also contemplates that individuals who are individual contractors or sole proprietors could also enroll and save through the program. And so there will be a lot of options for Maine workers who currently don't have access to a retirement plan.
What about Maine workers who are sort of gig workers or, dabble in part-time work? I remember, years ago, I had left one job in New Hampshire and came to Maine, and I ended up spending the summer working on a schooner and painting boats. So, and we know that that's like not atypical for lots of Mainers, right?
Right. Well, that sounds wonderful, Dusty, I must admit. But yes, so these individuals would be able to enroll in the program. And, the goal here is, so we know that based on the data that this is a way to get folks enrolled and starting to understand what it means to save. Some people ask the question, well, can't people just go down and do it themselves, or, go out to Vanguard? But, saving for retirement and making those choices can be very confusing for people. It can be intimidating if you're not used to the markets or to navigating savings plans. And so this is meant to be a very simple way for people to enroll in a creditable plan and really start, we hope, we view this as an important multi-generational bill because we want to see people starting to save, Mainers starting to save earlier, but it's also a great option for older Mainers who may not have been able to save. We know, the statistics on older Mainers who remain in the workforce long past traditional retirement age are not what you like to see. There are a lot of folks who are having to continue to work. And so this would really provide a nice option kind of across generations. And I want to point out that the news is pretty stark if we don't do anything. We worked with UMaine, with economists at UMaine, to look at the challenges the state would face if we do nothing. And the bottom line is we can't afford to do nothing. The cost to the state, if Mainers continue to save at the rates they are now or not save at all, will be huge in terms of taxpayer dollars for public programs. And we want that safety net there for people. Social Security is hugely important and will be there, but it's not enough. And so we really want to see more Mainers saving for retirement through a retirement account so that they have that option on top of their Social Security checks.
I think so often, especially for people who maybe don't come from, communities or homes or environments where saving is possible for them, the mechanics of how to get that going, even though it's easy once you start to automate it, but like the mental barrier as well as the actual logistical barriers of figuring out where and when and how. It's even knowing too that, some of the folks we're talking about may not have checking accounts where you can even do an auto, deposit. So.
Well, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, that's sometimes where inertia sets in. And so you look and kind of the fear of making the right choice or a choice means that you end up doing nothing. And again, that cost of doing nothing for individuals and for the state are just huge. We know that the costs in retirement beyond just traditional cost of living, but just for healthcare, the estimates in terms of what you need to save just to cover your additional healthcare costs are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the average savings in Maine that a Mainer has is $2,500, and it's just not enough. And folks ask, well, what if you have someone who's working a job where they're not making a lot of money and they don't feel like they can put any away? And we get that. And that's why the employees will have the option to change the amount that's going in. And what we're finding, I think this is the good news, is that Maine isn't the first state working on this issue. Other states are working on this, and Oregon is the one to really look at. And they're finding that individuals in low-wage jobs are saving. The news is good. Millions of dollars have been saved already over since the program began. And so we really are seeing this change. Making the process seamless and easy is really helping people get started. And then our hope is that that's just the beginning, and that once they see how easy it is, and that they see, you know, we all hear about the power of compound interest, that if folks start young, that they'll start to see their retirement accounts grow. And then, you know, they'll also be looking for that as they move from job to job.
Great. So we have a question here in the chat, and that reminds me too, if you're watching on the Facebook live stream and you have questions about this or the bill or its prospects or other related bills, go ahead and put them over on the Facebook live stream and we'll be sure to get them to Lori. We have a question here about whether participants would be able to choose how their money is saved, their level of risk, where it goes. How would that work?
So a lot of this will be the board that's created that will work with Treasury to contract with a firm. You know, as you think about the Vanguards and those types of entities, they would work to pick a plan that would have minimal risk, and the individual would start in this, you know, they'd be automatically enrolled. But the good news is as the individual got more comfortable with the with saving and getting to know what their account looked like, they would then have the option to make changes that they wanted to. So, you know, some of us are less risk averse, some of us like to take more risk. I tend to be in the less risk averse category. And so there will be those kinds of options for individuals, but this will be their starting point. I should have mentioned this at the beginning, and this is really important as we think about what the last year has brought in terms of COVID. The number of people who lost their job almost immediately when the state and the country shut down, who had no savings. This program would also set it up so that there would be an initial amount that would be in a savings account, so that you could easily take those dollars if you needed to. Say, you know, we saw so many folks who couldn't pay rent that first month or two after COVID hit and before some of the relief efforts took place or came into effect from the federal government. So this would be this would also offer that emergency savings account that could be so important to people at the beginning. So great.
And this question, follow-up question is one I had as well. Are there penalties? It's essentially like a Roth IRA. So the rules that would apply to that would also apply to this?
They would apply, and there are, I must admit that I don't have the full list of different criteria for the Roth right in front of me.
Sure.
But there would be there could be penalties at different points, but you also have a good amount of freedom and flexibility depending on your situation to be able to access. So it would, again, it would depend on what the board that would be created under this program, under this bill, would set up in terms of what the retirement account would be.
Great. So let's get into the bill itself and tell me a little bit about the path before this bill. So we only have really 2 more weeks of hearings and we're still, you know, waiting on an LD for this, but then what next? It will go, you know, what committee do you think it'll be referred out to?
Well, we hope to see it printed shortly. This was a bill that we were working on last year. We had great momentum. We're making progress, and then unfortunately everything shut down. So we kind of, as it goes, you can start from square one. And I should have noted our bill sponsor is Senator Eloise Vitelli. It's been such a pleasure working with her on this issue. She's very passionate about making sure that folks can save for retirement. We're also working with a lot of organizations, and I see Jolda here. We're working closely with New Ventures Maine and others on this bill. And so we're hoping to see it printed shortly, and then it would go before the Health Coverage, Insurance, and Financial Services Committee, and we'll have a hearing. And it did have a hearing last year. It was just about to move out of committee. So we'll go through that process again. We'll hear from folks, and then you're right, we're on a pretty tight timeline, but we're hopeful, and AARP and all of our advocates are geared up on this important issue. And so we hope this year we can move it just in time before we can no longer have those hearings. So.
Sure. And then do you expect it to go to appropriations? Is there a cost to the state to set this up?
So there is a one-time cost. The way the bill is set up and contemplated, and this is what we've seen in states like Oregon, is that it becomes self-funding over time. So there's an initial investment to get the program up and running, but then in essence, the funds get paid back to the state. So there's no cost to the taxpayer.
Interesting. And so you did say there are a couple of other states who have programs like this. So we actually have places that we can be learning from and adapting.
That's absolutely right. And that's actually this is a good time for Maine to do this. It's always great. Sometimes it's great to be first. Sometimes it's nice to be just after those who can get the kinks worked out. This also, there's been a lot of talk about the need for financial literacy and what an important component that is as well. And that is definitely a part of this. But we know from looking at the last 40 years that it's not enough. And that's why we view this program as so important. There are already a lot of large companies, corporations that provide 401ks to their employees, where employees are automatically enrolled. The data through those companies is quite positive around savings rates. And again, employees can opt out if they choose to do so. So this isn't something new. It's just this public-private partnership really offers this opportunity to help those who just need a little support to get started. And then our goal is that the more comfortable they get, and I was fortunate that my dad set up a Roth IRA for me when I was finishing college. So I got to understand what that meant. I started to put money away and saw how that money grows over time, even a very small amount. I worked many jobs where I wasn't making much, but I tried to do it to put a little bit away, and then I got more comfortable and understood a little bit more what I was doing. At least I hope so. And so, that financial literacy piece is important, and that will also be built into this program. A lot of education on the front end to really help people navigate and understand how to save and the importance of saving.
And there's a question in the chat about some specifics, but I think it sounds like a lot of the specifics about the program would really be put in place by this overseeing board that you mentioned. So sort of the how it happens, the logistics, the amounts. Do you envision that people would have an opportunity to provide feedback or information to that board as they're in the planning phase?
I think that's going to be really important, and that's one of the challenges for anyone who's deeply engaged in public policy is, you know, what do you do in the statutory requirements, and then what authority does the board have? And so we would envision the opportunity for public comment to really make sure that the consumer voice is at the table, that the business voice is at the table, and that we build a program for Maine that's right for Maine. So we've got the model. We see it working in other places, but you know, we are not Oregon, we're not Illinois, we're not Maryland. So you know, we want to get it right for Maine and for Maine workers.
Great. So we've got the public hearing work session. We hope it comes out of the health coverage committee and then move toward that one-time or early stage investment. What do you see as the real, you know, what should people know about the pathway for this bill? Are there some sort of key challenges or opportunities that you think are unique about the strategy for this work? You know, not just the program that we're implementing here or hoping to?
Sure. So, you know, I would hope that if there are folks listening today who haven't had a chance to save for retirement or are able to now, but wish when they had been younger they'd been able to, that they would think about supporting this bill. And we've had good conversation with some young folks who have been working part-time jobs or working more than one job, who love the idea of even if it's just a small amount, knowing that a little something is going away to save for the future. And so again, you know, we see this as that's one of the beauties of it, as we think about for AARP, our members who have children, they have grandchildren, thinking about how they can start to save and really taking that multi-generational approach. So, you know, we're hoping that that folks will see this, view this as a good idea. Hopefully, I made a good case today, or started to. Folks can reach out to us, of course, at AARP Maine, but we'd love for folks to contact their legislators, let them know that they view this as a good idea, that we need this kind of option. And especially, again, as we talk about the future of Maine and the economic impact of having folks who are saving for retirement, in terms of really making sure that we've got a safety net in place and that it's doing what it needs to do, but that we aren't looking at the cost to the state if we do nothing that we'll see over the next 10, 20 years. We're talking millions and millions of dollars that the state will have to cover if folks aren't saving for retirement.
Yeah, I often wish that our fiscal notes were able to sort of contemplate, you know, what the other alternative looks like. You know, we really only take into account the dollars that go out and not, there isn't any way as part of that process to think about dollars that you save or, you know, foregone decision making in other, you know, with other choices.
You know, it's so true. It's so easy, and you know, I understand it's so easy to be focused on the day to day, and you know, it's how to think about the short term, the midterm, and the long term. And it's so important on an issue like this. You know, a third of Maine seniors rely solely on Social Security for their income. It's not a lot of money every month, and it's about $1,400 a month, which maybe it sounds like a lot, but if you look at the cost of food, healthcare, property taxes, insurance, there are so many older people who are struggling. I mean, the number of calls we got when COVID hit of older folks who needed to be working but were afraid to go to work, to their part-time job or their full-time job, who are looking to have to collect unemployment and wondering if they'd be able to get back into the workforce because they need to, not because they were wanting a second career, but because they didn't have a choice. And so, you know, we really see this is such an important part, this individual savings, as part of an overall plan for retirement, because Social Security is not enough and pensions just aren't around like they used to be.
Right. I think that's a really good entry point into the question that I always like to ask as part of this. We are an organization that focuses on gender equity and gender justice. So what do you see as the gender implications of this bill?
Well, Dusty, I'm so glad you asked that question because I did want to try to go there to have that conversation. And this is an issue that is really important to me, and that's women's retirement security. Women were already challenged before COVID. Women's savings rates are lower than men's for a number of reasons. Wage inequity, because women often leave the workforce to raise children, and then also are more often than not the caregivers of aging parents of their own or their significant others. So women have already been impacted over the life course in retirement. They also live longer. Well, COVID, the data, economic data on COVID-19 and the pandemic has shown that women have been disproportionately impacted from an economic perspective because of COVID-19. And so we view this bill is even more important for women who often work in low wage jobs, service sector jobs, caregiving jobs, and they definitely need this kind of program, we believe, to start to be able to put money away. And so all of those challenges that women were facing in retirement that were just even have become even more difficult due to COVID, and especially women of color. We see this as one piece. It's not the answer to everything. We've got some other issues we need to solve for, but that this would go a long way to helping to support women who are working in jobs without access to a retirement plan start to save for the future.
One of the bills I testified on yesterday was about home-based care, and no doubt you were also testifying on that bill or that collection of bills, Lori. But one of the stats that I saw as part of my preparation for that was that women are twice as likely as men to live alone in their older years. I think there were 50,000 women living alone in Maine who were 65 or older, and only 23,000 men. It's a really big difference. And we know that it is simply more affordable to live with other people. That is why people get roommates. Like, that is why it's hard to divorce. And so, when we also take into account that lifetime of wage discrepancy and that women are less likely to have those resources, that's a really, profound piece of information for me to have been able to put those together.
It's the numbers are stark. They're pretty depressing, and as I said, there are a lot of different things that we need to do from a policy perspective to really help ensure that women can live into their retirement years not in poverty, not food insecure, and this is of course just one piece of the puzzle, but it's an important piece. And you mentioned divorce. That's another factor that disproportionately in terms of income impacts women. If they do go through divorce, the likelihood that they'll have increased debt and almost no savings is very great. So again, whether it's getting folks used to saving, bringing the connection to financial literacy that could help working women as they move throughout the working part of their lives. I mean, that's why we're so lucky to have organizations like New Ventures around doing the great work that they do. And we hope that this will be kind of it's not going to, for some it may be too late, but if we can get folks starting at a younger age and we can really start to see folks build their wealth as they look towards retirement. And it can seem a long way off for folks, but boy, it comes quickly. And so the sooner folks can begin, the better.
All right, well, and I see this sort of last comment, Cheryl's generation had a savings that started in grade school, and then pensions were a supplement to Social Security, and now we need something new to replace that. So this could be the answer. Well, any last comments that you wanted to share with us before we close up, Lori?
Well, I would just love for folks who are watching, if they'd like to hear more about the legislation, I'd say please reach out to AARP Maine. You can email me@aarp.org, pretty simple, and we can share some information with you. Keep an eye out. We should see a bill soon and a hearing soon, and we hope to get this over the finish line. And I just want to thank folks for listening in today. And Dusty, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this important issue.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lori. I'm really glad that you could join us. Thanks for your hard work, and of course to Senator Vitelli, the prime sponsor for this. And thanks for people who joined us. We hope to see you next week on Thursday, the 29th. We'll be talking about a bundle of anti-choice legislation with Nicole Clegg from Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.